Was the ultimate American dream ever really about the little guy? Or was that just part of the pitch? 5 sharks, one shot to make it big.
Who are the sharks? They're self-made millionaire and billionaire investors who are entrepreneurs themselves. Kevin O'Leary is a venture capitalist who turned a $10,000 loan.
Where everyday inventors could face down billionaires and walk away with life-changing investment deals. For a while, Shark Tank was the heart of American startups, turning socks into a million-dollar industry.
To take you through our 7 substantial improvements. We started with Peruvian Pima cotton. This is a natural fiber that wicks moisture, breathes, stays warm in the winter, and cool in the summer.
But somewhere along the way, deals started crumbling. And what started as a platform for underdogs turned into a playground for corporate greed. This is the story of how Shark Tank became a corporate scam in disguise. Shark Tank was once seen as a great place for new and creative ideas to shine. It helped launch popular products like the Squatty Potty and Scrub Daddy. Viewers loved watching excited business owners share their dreams, and every handshake on the show felt like a big win. But behind all the excitement and bright lights, a different story was happening. Over the years, problems started to show. Many of the deals that looked amazing on TV didn't actually happen in real life. Some business owners said they felt pushed around or ignored by the sharks who had promised to support them. By the year 2025, more and more people, including past contestants, reporters, and even people on Reddit, began to agree. Shark Tank was no longer the feel-good show it used to be. It had become something controlled by big companies, focused more on profit than helping people. In Season 3 of Shark Tank, a businesswoman named Shelly Ayler came onto the show with a product called Show No.
20 a day. They're open 3 months a year, 90 days. That's 80,000 towels. That's almost $1 million in 3 months.
It was a special towel made for kids to use at water parks and water slides. On TV, her pitch seemed like a big success. Shelly asked for $50,000 to grow her business, and one of the sharks, Lori Greiner, quickly agreed to invest. The cameras even showed Lori holding a check for $75,000, which made it seem like Shelly had gotten more than she asked for. It looked like a dream come true, but after the show ended and the cameras were turned off, everything changed. The deal with Lori didn't happen the way it looked on TV. Later, Shelly shared that her Shark Tank experience turned to crap. She said the check Lori held up was just for show. It was meant to look good on TV, but Shelly never received any money from Lori. She had also talked about big plans and possible deals with companies like Disney, but none of those things ever came true. Eventually, Shelly's business had to shut down. But later on her social account, she posted honest updates where she admitted things didn't work out. Later, she made a post again saying, "So, it's time to throw in the towel again." According to experts and fans, Shelly's story wasn't unusual. Many deals that look real on the show fall apart later when the cameras are off, which was followed by the Shelly saying clearly that Shelly's deal with Lori was strictly made for television. Even though it looked like a successful deal on screen, it never really happened in real life. Many other deals also fell apart behind the scenes, just like Shelly's. In 2013, a former NFL player named Bubba Baker came on Shark Tank with a unique product: boneless baby back ribs.
Hi, I'm Al Bubba Baker from Avon, Ohio, owner of the deboned baby back rib steaks.
He had created a special way to remove the bones while keeping the meat whole, and he had even patented it. On the show, Bubba and Shark Daymond John agreed to a deal, $300,000, in exchange for 30% of Bubba's business, which was called Bubba's Q Boneless Ribs. The show made it look like a huge success and a big win for Bubba's family. But after the show was over and filming stopped, the deal took a turn. Bubba and his family later said that Daymond changed the terms. Instead of the original $300,000 for 30%, they claimed he came back and said it would now be only $100,000, and for an even bigger share of the company, 35%. According to court documents and news reports, Daymond had changed the agreement in writing and started leaving Bubba out of important business meetings. Meanwhile, the business was still being promoted as a great success story. When reporters started looking into it, Bubba's family said they had only received 4% of the $16 million the business had made. They felt left out of their own company and said the promises from the show were broken. The situation got worse. The Baker family filed lawsuits against Daymond and his team, saying they had been misled and that Daymond was trying to take over the company. Daymond responded by defending himself and said the claims were false. A judge later gave Damon a restraining order, which meant the Bakers were legally not allowed to speak out against him in public anymore. Damon continued to say that he actually lost money on the deal, but for the Bakers, the experience was painful. Al Baker had said on TV that this deal was going to change his family's life, but later, he called the whole experience a nightmare instead. In another big Shark Tank moment, a young businessman named Charles Yim came on the show in 2013 with an exciting idea.
Hello Sharks, my name is Charles Michael Yim, and I'm the founder and CEO of Breathometer. I'm asking for $250,000 for 10% equity stake in my company.
He had created something called the Breathometer, a small breathalyzer that connected to your smartphone. It was supposed to help people check their blood alcohol level before deciding to drive. Charles gave a very impressive pitch, and the Sharks loved it. In fact, all 5 Sharks decided to invest together. They gave him a total of $1 million in exchange for 30% of his company. On TV, it looked like a huge win. Everyone was smiling and celebrating what seemed like a great new product. But later, things went very wrong.
I accept.
All right.
Government officials looked into the breathometer and found out that it didn't work properly. By 2017, the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, a U.S. agency that protects consumers, said the product was giving people false information. It often showed that a person's blood alcohol level was lower than it actually was. This meant that someone might think they were safe to drive when they were actually over the legal limit, which was very dangerous. The FTC charged the company with making false claims. As part of the punishment, the Breathometer app had to be shut down, and people who bought it were given their money back. The damage had been done, though not just to customers, but also to the Sharks who had backed the product. One of the Sharks, Mark Cuban, was especially upset. He explained how the Breathometer was the worst investment of his Shark Tank history.
What was your biggest loss?
My biggest loss was probably $1 million. There was this company that had, what the hell was it called? But you would blow into it and it did alcohol detection. And it was a great idea and actually a decent product. But like the guy, Charles, I look at his Instagram and he'd be in Bora Bora.
Meaning it was the biggest failure he had seen come out of the show. Looking back, some experts said that the fact all 5 Sharks rushed to invest so quickly should have been a warning sign. Even the FTC said the Sharks had been fooled completely. They believed the product without checking it deeply. In the end, regular people who bought the Breathometer were the ones who suffered. Many commenting things like, he was partying and drinking to test the Breathometer. Meanwhile, the Sharks were left embarrassed after being publicly called out by government regulators. Some of the biggest success stories related to Shark Tank didn't actually come from deals that were made on the show. In fact, some of the best companies were completely rejected by the Sharks. These stories show that the Sharks aren't always right. Sometimes they miss out, and badly. Back in 2013, an entrepreneur named Jamie Siminoff came on the show with a product called Doorbot, which would later be renamed Ring. It was a smart video doorbell that could send alerts to your phone when someone rang the bell. Jamie believed it was the future of home security, but none of the Sharks agreed. They didn't see the potential in his idea. Even the Shark Kevin mocked, quipping that, "You're dead to me," after they all walked away. But just a few years later, Jamie proved them wrong. The product became very popular, and in 2018, Amazon bought Ring for over $1 billion. It became a household name. Even the Sharks had to laugh at how badly they had messed up. Shark Kevin O'Leary, who usually has a lot to say, could only joke that missing out on Ring was like, "You're dead to me," was a huge loss. But it wasn't just Jamie. Another powerful example came in 2015, when a woman named Melissa Butler pitched her business called The Lip Bar. Her brand made vegan, inclusive makeup products with bold lipstick colors for people of all skin tones. But instead of supporting her, the Sharks were very rude. One of them even said her lipsticks looked like colorful cockroaches and said her products would never sell. By the end, Melissa was turned down by everyone. Years later, she said, they were very cruel to her on national TV. However, Melissa didn't give up. In fact, getting rejected on Shark Tank may have helped her in the long run. People started paying attention to her brand. The Lip Bar grew fast and landed a big deal with Target. and the company went on to make millions of dollars. While Shark Tank moved on to its next episode, Melissa's business kept growing stronger. The show rarely talks about these kinds of wins, the ones that happen after the sharks say no, but they're real. In many cases, the people who are rejected on Shark Tank end up building great businesses all on their own, without any help from the sharks or the cameras. At the same time, some of the sharks themselves have been involved in serious problems, especially when it comes to promoting risky or dishonest products. Kevin O'Leary, also known as Mr. Wonderful, is one of the most well-known sharks. He's famous for being tough and direct, but in 2021, he was sued by a group of entrepreneurs who said he had taken advantage of them. A total of 20 people filed a legal complaint accusing O'Leary and another former shark, Kevin Harrington, of supporting shady crowdfunding companies. These are companies that raise money online from regular people to help launch new products. According to the lawsuit, the entrepreneurs trusted these companies only because O'Leary and Harrington had endorsed them. The entrepreneurs believed that if two famous sharks supported the companies, they must be safe and trustworthy. But the people who sued said they were misled. The companies named Inventure X and Ideazon looked like real businesses, but were actually just fake setups or facades meant to take people's money without giving anything back. The lawsuit claimed that O'Leary did not properly check whether these companies were real or honest. He simply allowed them to use his name and image. As a result, the companies were able to take hundreds of thousands of dollars from hopeful inventors, people trying to launch their own businesses, while delivering almost no real help. The lawsuit itself says Kevin O'Leary's name helped scammers look trustworthy, and real entrepreneurs ended up losing their hard-earned money. Kevin O'Leary's lawyers have denied that he was deeply involved. They say he didn't know the companies were dishonest. But even if that's true, this case shows a bigger problem. Sometimes deals connected to the Shark Tank brand happen outside the show, and they can be just as risky or even dangerous for regular people trying to follow their dreams. By the late 2010s, many viewers and past contestants started to feel disappointed with Shark Tank. People online began to wonder if the show was even real anymore. On social media, fans started saying that the dramatic moments were probably staged, not to help the entrepreneurs, but to make the sharks and the TV network look good. On Reddit, many fans in the Shark Tank community began sharing their frustration. One person wrote that the show had become just capitalists engaging in shady business practices. In other words, rich investors doing unfair or sneaky things just to entertain the audience. Another commenter said the sharks aren't out to help anyone except themselves. Some even believe that many of the success stories shown on the show were fake, or at least heavily exaggerated to make the sharks look smart. Stories from former contestants only made people more suspicious. In one popular Reddit thread called an Ask Me Anything, a business owner who actually got a deal explained how the show works behind the scenes. They said the producers coach them before filming. For example, contestants are told exactly how to start their pitch, with lines like, "Hello sharks, my name is blah blah." These introductions sound natural on TV, but they're actually rehearsed and carefully planned. After that, contestants can speak freely, but producers help them come up with ideas and practice. The truth is, what we see on TV isn't completely real. It's a polished version of what actually happens. And the parts viewers don't see can be even more emotional. Contestants who get rejected often feel heartbroken after filming. In fact, one former contestant said there's a therapist on standby during filming just in case someone breaks down after being turned away. They even joked about the therapist. All of these behind-the-scenes stories give fans the same message. Shark Tank might look like a real exciting competition on TV, but a lot of it is carefully planned. And once the cameras are off, the sharks are the ones in control, not the entrepreneurs. As more stories came out, people started changing how they saw Shark Tank. The focus was no longer just on the entrepreneurs trying to follow their dreams. Instead, more attention was being given to the people running the show, especially the sharks and the producers, and how they were creating unfair situations behind the scenes. One former contestant said it plainly online. The show is called Shark Tank, meaning, of course, the sharks, who are really big money investors, would act like predators, trying to get the best deal for themselves, even if it hurt the entrepreneurs. According to this view, the show became more about fighting and drama than helping people build real businesses. Shark Tank no longer looked like a real competition full of creative ideas. Instead, it started to look like a carefully staged show, where the real winners were the sharks and the producers. The audience was cheering for something that looked inspiring, but behind the scenes, it was mostly just a game for profit. while many entrepreneurs were left hurt or forgotten. In the end, Shark Tank didn't just sell products, it sold hope too. And for many, that hope came at a cost. Let us know if you think that it is always rigged. And did any deals truly inspire you? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hitting that like and subscribe button for a free cookie next time. Because we're not done exposing scandals yet.